Dead Cells. Well, that aged like milk. To say Dead Cells was a big game in my life would be an understatement. It introduced me to roguelikes and opened my eyes to indie games as a whole. I've been a fan of this game for years, and while I'd love to talk about all of its intricacies and flaws, that's for another day. Today, I want to look over the final update that just came out and to pay my respects. For those who don't know, this name meant nothing upon initial reveal. We all knew it was one of the last updates, but due to unfortunate circumstances between the two developing teams, this ended up being the last one. I'm not here to open up that can of worms, but it is important to mention that this wasn't planned out to be the last update, but despite that, I still feel it's one of the best the game has gotten. There is a fair bit to go over, but I might as well get all the side content out of the way before we get into the real meat of the update. It's been a bit of a trend for updates to add content to previous ones, such as adding mimics everywhere instead of just the bank, adding customization to Boss Rush, or in this update's case, adding new routes for the Castlevania DLC and more heads to make up for the lack of numbers for the update centered around customizable heads. Why did they only have one head in that update? Nothing crazy, but needed additions to have everything fully fleshed out for this final update. The new content is themed around a long-time mechanic, curses. Basically, if you're cursed, any damage kills you, but you typically get something nice out of it. This mostly comes from cursed chests you can find in biomes, but not really much else. The update added cursed biomes. Biomes now have a 25% chance of being cursed at 2 boss cells and above. When they are, you get an extra chance to find a cursed chest, and gear is 1 level higher, but you'll have to face cursed enemies. These new enemies include the Doombringer, who can stun you and curse you with a melee attack, the Curser, who fires intangible homing skulls that curse you, and the Sword Loser, who follows you around where killing it curses you. I can't describe how genius this is. While there is always a risk of instantly dying with Curse, you usually had to cause it yourself. There was a lot of agency. This made it quite easy to just play it safe and slowly kill off small groups of enemies. These new Cursed enemies take all the agency away from the player and make situations really dangerous now. You don't have the luxury of being careful since you most likely got cursed in the middle of a crowd during combat. This makes cursed biomes a massive threat to your run, where any mistake can end your run instantly if you aren't careful. And the reward is still pretty good, since cursed chests give you scrolls, and scrolls scale your damage exponentially. Even just one extra cursed chest can give thousands of damage by the time you get to the end of the run. One special thing about Dead Cells compared to other roguelikes is the routing, as depending on the reward, the weapons you have, where the biomes lead, picking the best route is important. One problem this game has is on higher difficulties you need as many scrolls as possible, so there's an optimal route that should be taken to best encourage a successful run with very little variation. There have been attempts to change this using biome incentives, but it only gives you gold in extra cells, one of which is just for meta progression, and the other is in no short supply during runs. Cursed biomes add risk and reward. Is it worth risking your run to stay on the optimal path? Will you go on an easier biome now that it's cursed and has extra rewards? I have yet to put much time into playing full high difficulty runs with this mechanic, but from what I have played, it's already heavily influenced my decision making for which path I take, which is perfect. It's exactly what the game needed. There's also 3 new weapons and mutations locked behind these new enemies. For weapons, we have I'm gonna imagine that's pronounced Misericorde, which crits mobs that are below half health but curses you if you don't kill it. We have the Anathema, which shoots a heart of a mushroom boy in an explosive arc, cursing you if it hits an enemy, and Indulgence, which removes 3 curses for every kill while activating an extra time for every 5 curses you have. For mutations, we have Cursed Flask, giving you infinite flask for the price of 20 curse AUs, Demonic Strength, giving a 30% damage increase for being cursed, with an extra 2% for every extra stack, and Damned Vigor, where upon being killed you have a 2-second window to kill an enemy to be revived at 1 health, although getting hit again will kill you for good. These are all really fun. The 2 weapons offer high damage for the obvious risk, but aren't as risky as Curse Sword, instead acting as great support weapons for curse builds. And the mutations all support curse builds in fun ways. I found that Face Flask and Curse Flask is a great way to stack needless amounts of Curse, for which you can use Demonic Strength to get a massive damage buff. Or even using the reworked Alienation with a mix of Anathema allows for plenty of healing, which is extremely valuable in higher boss cells. Damned Vigor, surprisingly, isn't that broken, or it can still be pretty hard to revive, and the only weak link of the group is Indulgence. Or it's hard to kill with it, and there are very few situations where you need to get rid of such a large amount of Curse when you could just do a Curse build instead. But it's a really solid selection of weapons and mutations this time around. And that's all the content in the update. I'm really surprised at the update. There's usually one thing about these updates that just feels missing. The lack of heads and routes for the clean-cut Castlevania updates respectively, no practicing boss rush, very few legendary fixes during the rework, but this update feels whole. What a way to go out as well, recontextualizing old content for the better while helping improve on one of the game's bigger flaws. It may not be the grand finale we had all hoped for, but it still holds up as a great send-off. One of the best updates in recent memory, maybe one of the best updates aside DLCs. It's a bittersweet ending, to say the least, with it ending sooner than people would have liked, which especially hurts when hearing that there is more content planned for the game after this. But the game did have to end one day, so I'm glad they ended it on a high note. There will still be other games like Dead Cells in the future, whether it be from the developers themselves or newcomers. Dead Cells has deservedly amassed a huge reputation as one of the best action roguelikes, so let's not cry because it's over, but smile because it happened. Okay, I'm not going to end the video on that cheesy of a line, but this game truly is something special to me. Even if I haven't expressed it much this video, it has been one of the most influential games I've played, and it's opened my eyes to a world of creativity and creation that may inspire me to pursue making my own games one day. So, from the bottom of my heart, I really want to thank the original team Motion Twin behind making the game, and Evil Empire behind keeping the game alive for the past 6 years. You've all made something special, and I'm far from the only one to express that sentiment. Thank you so much.